Greetings and welcome to another video. I'm going to start the video right here. I am currently in our realist Meadow's yard. This is her parcel, her home. She's lived here for a year and she chose this spot very intentionally. Everything you see here, the barn, the horses, the Victorian house on the hill, the rotunda, the layout, the little details, all of it is built to reflect her real physical world. This place gives her safety, serenity, and grounding in SecondLife. To Meadow, this isn't just a build, this is her space, her peace. And for that entire year, the region was calm, nothing dramatic. She chose to live here a year ago because the land around it was abandoned. And after her first year on this parcel, well, that's when the chaos began recently. Because after a year of peace, this is what happens. A new neighbor moves in and it changes everything. The moment he arrived, everything changed. And it has affected everyone on this sim. The red that you see is the bad neighbor's parcel boundary line. This is Meadow's parcel. This is the good neighbor's parcel. And this parcel, the bad neighbor purchased 2 days ago. This is a prim mess from hell. It gets worse because there is intention here. The bad neighbor actually had options, a lot of options. He could have started the build on the far side of his parcel, either here or here or here or here. But no, what he did, and I will show you, he built up right on the land that was already surfaced above the water, the land that he could see. And he built right up to it. This is Meadow's wall. From this yellow line here, this is Meadow's property, and this is the bad neighbor's property. And yes, you can see encroaching here from his part. And yes, you also see a privacy screen that realist Summer and I put up for Meadow. I will explain that later on. This bad neighbor could have kept the bulk of his prim explosion away from Meadow's parcel border. He could have. He had plenty of room to do that. He could have just moved it just a little bit down and, like started the build here. But no, he did not. He built on the land that was already visible. I'm going to show you so you could understand the patterns and you'll be able to tell the difference between mainland territorial behavior and someone who doesn't know how to terraform but still manages to use the land tools as coercive control over someone else and their land. Now, this is the bad neighbor's terrain. This is his neighbor's terrain. Now you can see it goes all the way up to the surface of the water where the little butterflies are. And I will show you more. Now this is where the already visible land on the same sim is visible above the water surface. And it is quite apparent that this is where he put his massive chaotic mess of prints. He started on the land that was already visible, and he is expanding outward. Now, look what he's doing. He is adding prims. We all know this. This is from Sky Studio. A rocky little coast, a little coastline, some fake waves, and he's doing it all the way around. Now, we're going to go underwater here, and we're going to look. Now, do you see this little rise here? And we go back under the water, around, and we go up, and we go over to the bad neighbor's neighbor land parcel. And you will see a big difference here. This is the bad neighbor's neighbor land. See how high that is compared to this and then this? So you can see that distinction there, that difference. So I will continue to explore underwater the bad neighbor's neighbor. You can see the land is higher, and we are back to the butterflies on water surface. Now, here's the part that I'm about to explain that actually matters. Sevendale's terrain settings allow the land to be raised 4 meters above its baked height and lowered 4 meters below it. The region is not one of those deep water mainland sims where the terrain cannot rise. And as we just saw, the parcel next door proves it. Their terrain is raised up to the waterline. This is all the same region, same rules, same height limits. Speaking of height limits, let me show you. So this is the region terrain data. This is for Sevendale. You can see the water height, it's at 20. You can see the terrain rise limit at 4, the terrain lower limit at -4. Explaining it using data, what I just shown you. I will carry on. Under his parcel, as we saw, the terrain is left at the baked low point. It dips, but it rises again on both sides. That means this is sculptable terrain. The land under his build could have been raised just like the neighbors and just like Meadows. So the issue here isn't terrain limitations. The region allows for it. The neighbor did it. The land tools exist. And when you look at the terrain, the neighbor's parcel, the region settings that I've shown you, the only conclusion left is that he didn't terraform at all. Okay, well, that's fine. Not everyone knows how. But it does not justify building a wall on your neighbor's border. Terrain limitations do not dictate your layout. Your priorities and your skills do. The real problem here is that the bad neighbor did not terraform at all. That's highly obvious here. He left the land low, covered it with fake waves and fake coastline, and built on the one ridge that he could see. Now we're going to move on back to Meadow's parcel here. And as you can see, there is a privacy screen. I'm going to explain the privacy screen. There's 2 of them. This one is for Meadow. This one was for the bad neighbor. Both are on Meadow's property within her property's boundary lines. When the bad neighbor put that massive wall, the back of his build, right on top of her little Victorian house, with her barn and her 2 horses on the hill here, he completely wiped out the peace that she was enjoying. She wasn't just annoyed. She was uncomfortable. She was upset. She felt boxed in. Everyone has a bubble of space around their physical and virtual body, and the same is true for physical and virtual land. A parcel boundary isn't just a line on a map. It's a personal boundary. It's the space where you feel safe. It's the space where you can breathe. So Meadow added him to her banned list. Now, not out of spite, not to get back at him, but as an extra safety measure. And I want to make something very, very, very clear here. When you're a female, when you're a woman living alone, even in Second Life, and you get a bad neighbor next door, you do whatever you can within your rights to protect your serenity. Now, how did the bad neighbor respond when she added him to her ban list? Well, he banned her back, not for his safety, not because she did anything to him, because she did not, but as a retaliatory reflex, the exact pattern he describes in his own profile. You get what you give. I hate you bad. Yes, I'm petty. Words that he used in his in world profile, which I will go over shortly. After he banned her from his parcel, he escalated things again. He bought the parcel behind her, which is this here. When he first bought it 2 days ago, he put a humongous wall here. Obviously, it is not visible because he took it down, but that leaves uncertainty. That means he's going to do something else instead. But imagine you're Meadow and you're already having to endure this. And then the same bad neighbor buys this land and puts up a big prim here. That would mean she's blocked in from that side and from that side. With him putting the wall up and then removing it, I want to explain how this is the virtual world version of coercive control because he is creating uncertainty. And for most of us, especially on this channel and the personality types that are mostly on this channel, we do not like uncertainty, especially not when it involves our land in Second Life. How is this virtual world version of coercive control? Well, it's not through messages, it's not through arguments, it's not through emotional manipulation, it's through the land tools. Buying parcels around someone, building walls, removing walls, repositioning them, creating uncertainty, making the person wonder what's coming next. It's the same pattern, just expressed through a different medium. Now, let's look at the mask that he puts all over this chaotic abomination. Let's look at his about land and the description. And it says Sunset Ocean View, saleable to Blake's Sea, is and under construction, will be open again soon. Thank you very much as I build. Please find a way around until it's done. Thank you very much for your help in this time of renewing and love for Second Life. I'm going to break down the description here. I want you to pay attention to the last part. Thank you very much for help in this time of renewing and love for Second Life. Because what he is doing here is not love for Second Life. Love for Second Life is building community. Love for Second Life is respecting your neighbors. Love for Second Life is creating spaces that make the world feel bigger, not smaller. What he is doing is the opposite. He is destroying the peace of other people's second life. He is destabilizing the environment around him. He is using land tools to exert control, not creativity. And the way he is doing it, the escalation, the retaliation, the territorial behavior, shows exactly how little he cares about anyone else's experience here in Second Life. This is not renewing. This isn't love for a second life. This is someone rewriting reality to justify behavior that harms the people around him, especially Meadow here. We're going to go deeper into the lie here. I'm going to pull up the region map. Here we go. So, as you can see, this is Meadow's property, and here I am right here. I'm on it. And this is his mess. Now, remember the land description says saleable to Blake Sea. Severdale is inland. It is surrounded by land on all sides. There is no channel, there is no inlet, there is no gap. The nearest protected water is in Codlet. And it has absolutely nothing to do with this sim. Nothing to do. Yeah. Because you've got all of this. There's no way to get out here. There's never been a route here. There's no abandoned waterway. There's no planned connection. You cannot sail from Sevendale, which is on Satori's inland, to Blake Sea. There is no navigable route. The only Satori to Blake Sea connection is on the northern and eastern coast, not inland. The Blake Sea has direct access to the northern coast of Satori, meaning the only coastal regions of Satori connect to Blake Sea, not the inland regions, especially not Severdale here. No, this is not my opinion. This is what the documented SL waterways show. It's factual. You can look it up. Severdale is not on the northern coast. It is deep inland, surrounded by landlocked sands. The only major navigable waterway between Satori and other continents is the Bingo Strait. The Bingo Strait is the primary navigable route between Satori and Nautilus, and from there to Blake Sea. Severdale is nowhere near the Bingo Strait. There is no possible sailing route from Severdale to Blake Sea, not through abandoned land, not through protected land, not through any future expansion. The geography does not lie. The map does not lie. The region layout does not lie. But he, the bad neighbor, absolutely does lie. And he is using the lie in his about land description to assert power and control over an entire region. Now, I will go into black screen mode because next I'm going to break down his in-world profile to explain everything you've already seen in his bad neighbor behavior. Now, I'm not going to show his profile on the screen, but I am going to talk about the parts that matter, the parts that explain everything you've already seen. He openly describes himself as petty, reactive, vengeful, and someone who gives back whatever he feels he receives. That is not personality. That's a control pattern. People who frame relationships in terms of retaliation, dominance, or emotional scorekeeping tend to express those same patterns in shared spaces, including virtual land and Second Life. Across his profile, his pics, and his First Life tab, there is a consistent pattern of identity inflation, and we've already went over that in a previous video. The identity inflation, the marina owner, the waterway controller, the guy who thinks he's part of some major sailing routes. Do you understand why what he said in the about land description is so important? Because it proves that he is using identity inflation on purpose to come across as he is controlling this entire region. And it's all based on a false reality because you cannot sail from Severdale to Blake Sea. None of that is real, but it's the fantasy that is driving his behavior towards Meadow's parcel, towards the other people's parcels. This kind of escalation follows a very predictable psychological pattern. People who do this, buying up surrounding parcels, building oversized walls, removing them, and then repositioning, are usually driven by a need for control. It is not about creativity. It is not about enjoying their land. It is about managing the environment around them in a way that makes them feel powerful or dominant. In psychology, this actually falls under territorial behavior. It's the same pattern you see when someone tries to control the shared space, not because they need it, but because controlling it gives them a sense of authority or ownership. There is also an element of reactive escalation. When they feel challenged, even by something as simple as a neighbor existing, a neighbor that has already existed on the land for a year before the bad neighbor moves in, or putting up a privacy screen for her safety, for her need to feel safe on her own property, because this bad neighbor created this monstrosity of a towering sign of domineering control. And they respond by building something bigger, taller, and more intrusive. That is not problem solving, that is posturing. So when that same person starts buying the parcels around a neighbor and building oversized structures meant to dominate the environment, those behaviors are not random. They are not accidental. They are a consistent expression of the same underlying need for control. Everything he writes about himself lines up with everything he does on his land. The retaliation mindset, the dominance, the inflated identity, the need to control the space around him. His land is just a physical version of what he says in his profile. And one last thing before I close out this video, I want to point out something in his profile. On the front page of his profile, it says, I do not want to play your games. I opt out of being gaslighted, lol. Yet, he is gaslighting everyone else by stating in the about land description of his land that it is saleable from there to Blake Sea, when I've already shown you that it is not, that it is highly impossible, that it is a false reality. He is actually doing the gaslighting. So here's the conclusion. Here's the truth of what happened. Meadow did not move into a problem. A problem moved in around her. She lived here peacefully for a year. She built this space slowly, intentionally, to reflect her physical life. This parcel is her serenity, her grounding, her safe space. And when someone starts buying the land on both sides of you, building walls and tearing them down and moving them just to assert control, putting them up, putting them down, that uncertainty, that is not creativity. That's not neighborly. That is territorial behavior. Everything he did, the layout, the expansion, the retaliation, the about land lie, the parcel purchases, the walls, all of it follows the same psychological pattern he openly describes in his own profile. Meadow responded with her boundaries for her safety, not retaliation. And realist Summer and I put up the privacy screens to help restore her peace, not to start a fight. And the geography of the map exposes the truth. His entire fantasy collapses the moment you look at that map. This is not a story about drama. This is a story about boundaries, personal, emotional, and virtual. And it's a reminder that in Second Life, just like in the physical world, the people who respect your space make the world feel bigger. And the people who do not respect your space make it feel very small. Meadow did not move into a problem moved in around her. In closing, this is what it looks like when someone decides that your home is their battleground. And I hope that this video has given you a pattern to watch out for of people and their land. If that pattern involves using land tools, manipulation in order to control the region, in order to control the sim, the space, in order to control other people to make them move out. Now you can see that pattern, and I hope you'll be able to use that knowledge to tell the difference between someone who is intentionally being a bad neighbor on purpose for control, or they just don't understand how to own land properly, that they don't have any intention. They're just ignorant, using the correct definition of the word there. Ignorant means no knowledge of. So that's going to be it from me. Thank you for listening and or watching, and I will see you in the next one.